and get started. If you haven't yet, go ahead and post in the chat box where you're from and what you're most grateful for today. I like to start each day with gratitude, so go ahead and tell me what you're most grateful for today and where you're calling in from. Whether you're a solopreneur, sales professional, head of a networking organization, whatever you're doing, you've almost certainly come face to face with the most dreaded activity. You know how it goes. You meet someone, everyone's excited, then you email them, then you call them, and there's no response. What do you do now? Where did all that enthusiasm go? You know, there were people who were so excited. You're at the networking event. You're so excited. Everyone's ready to go. Hey, it's okay. Plenty of confident and articulate people turn to mumbling bumblers when faced with following up. I know that I struggled with it for years, and it held me back because I'm passionate about what I do. I just couldn't figure out how to follow up in a way that got people to return my calls. Now, I teach people how to grow their business and expand their referral network through following up. And having developed a strong business network means that I can serve a lot more people, connect with a much wider audience, and work less hard to earn more referrals that turn into sales. And that all starts when you follow up. So today's free training is all about follow-up. It doesn't matter what business you're in, if you're focused on networking or sales or marketing, if you're a solopreneur or developing your business network or following up on proposals or running your sales process, I'm going to share a formula for doing this quickly. You can follow up immediately, today, in fact. And the faster you take action, the faster you'll start generating better leads, doing much less work. If this sounds exciting, go ahead and let me know through the chat box that you're excited and this is what you're looking for. I mean, this is the exciting part, talking to people who want to talk to you, doing your work for people who will benefit. You know, I haven't met anyone who enjoys chasing people down, hounding people. You know, it's much better when they're coming to you. Okay, we got yes, yes, hello, this is what I need. Yes, great, great, thanks, Maria, Oksana, everyone. We got Rajesh. We got folks with no audio, but hopefully they'll click on that join audio. Lewis says yes, great. So that's a lot of excited people. I'm glad to know you're in the right place. Here are the proven facts. Sales is all about following up. Maybe you've seen these statistics before. Most people quit following up way too soon. It's not their fault. I mean, they call, and then they email, maybe send a message through LinkedIn, and don't get a response. Now what? And that's where people get stuck, as though there's some secret fourth way to contact someone that will instantly inspire them to get back to you. We already know that it's not about calling someone 7 days in a row with the same message each day. I mean, that doesn't work. And what we're learning today is that the people who aren't going to get back to you, the people who don't get back to you, you haven't set up the right foundation with them. Yes, you have to lay that foundation before you actually start following up, because first you have to make sure you're reaching out to the right person. There's nothing you can say to someone who doesn't want to hear from you to get them to respond, right? That just won't ever work. So you have to make sure, first of all, that you're picking the right person, the people who are receptive to your message. Then you have to deliver the right message. Well, series of messages, right? I mean, as we see on these statistics, it takes a bunch of different follow-ups to make this work. And so you have to reach out a bunch of times, and you can't reach out with the same exact message each time. So follow-up is a process, not an event, right? What we're talking about today, follow-up is a process, which is why Dr. Ivan Misner, the founder of BNI, now I don't know if anyone on the call is part of the BNI chapter. BNI is funny because they are so successful that everyone hates them, literally. Even some of their most productive members. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyone who's starting a networking group, I see this all the time. Anybody who's starting up a networking group can't wait to tell you how different their networking group will be from BNI. But if you want to emulate one thing about BNI, make it the tens of thousands of dollars a month in referrals they pass between their members. Whether you love BNI or hate it, Dr. Ivan Misner knows a thing or two about networking. And according to Dr. Misner, what is the secret to getting more business through networking? Time. Which is interesting because the number one challenge people tell me they face in following up is, you guessed it, not enough time. And in general, I'll say that's because they're chasing the wrong people. If you feel like you're hounding someone or bothering someone, you probably are. Something went wrong earlier in the process with that follow-up. And effective follow-up doesn't take much time at all. We'll be seeing more about that in a minute. But according to Dr. Misner, people who spend 2 hours a week networking don't get much benefit from networking, but spend 6.5 hours a week networking. That's about 16% of your time if you're only working 40 hours a week. It's only 16% of your time. And people who spend 16% of their time generate, on average, 50% of their business from networking, from this sequence of following up. And you can bet that 6.5 hours isn't about running breathlessly from event to event. Successful people use those hours to connect with the right people that can move their business forward. Now, of course, part of the benefit you get from a group like BNI is learning their approach to elevator pitches, one-on-ones, professional referrals, following up, partnerships, whatever. They have a whole system. What throws people off, what people find confusing and off-putting about BNI, is that it's expensive up front, both with time and money, to get into and learn their system before you start seeing the results. They love to say givers gain. I'm sure a bunch of you have heard that phrase, which is true. But I'll caution you to be careful, because networking is not the kind of place where you have to pay your dues. When you follow up correctly, you'll expect to get results within weeks. Now, I know some people who take giver's gain to mean that they have to network without results for a while. In fact, I met someone recently who's been going to network groups for 3 years and not getting any leads. And I'm telling you, if that describes you, you're definitely in the right place today, because there's it does not take that long to get results through networking, not when you're following up the way we talk about it today. It turns around fast. Once you learn some of these techniques and start using them, that really turns around fast. So, as I said, today is about learning a new formula for following up much more quickly, effectively, and inexpensively. And so, yes, there are opportunities everywhere. So what holds people back isn't the lack of opportunity. It's the lack of effective follow-up. Okay, I want to share with you a story. We're going to get into the really fun part here, so I'm going to request that you, before I get into the story, I'm going to request that you put your phone down. Many of you are holding it in your hand, so just flip it over, put it aside. I want you to shut down any other screen on your computer right now and blow this screen up so it's full screen. I'm going to share some really interesting information over the next 45 to 60 minutes. And I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I've got a lot to share, a lot of slides, and I want to get you as much as I can in a short amount of time. And my request is that you stay on and stay committed until the very end, because I want to make sure I get you all of this information. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to give away a bonus to someone. We're in this interactive program, and I want to make sure you get as much out of it as possible. So at the end of the webinar, I'm going to give away a half-hour phone call with me. It's a $250 value just for participating in the chat box and learning how to follow up so people are eager to hear from you. So at the end of this program, I'll pick the person who is most involved and come up with the strongest follow-up approach. So, it's not just about posting once. It's not posting about the weather or what you had for lunch or me chewing other people's comments. It's all about improving your follow-up, using these techniques and templates and scripts, and coming up with an approach that's authentically you and will bring in more leads. So what do all follow-up stories start with? I'll call you when I'm ready. We hear that all the time, right? I walked into a bakery called Yum Bunnies a few years ago here in Belmont, Massachusetts, on her very first day of business. She was very polite, took an estimate, then informed me that she had just that day opened for business and she needed to see how things went before she spent any money. And I don't know about how you feel about these kinds of exchanges, but this was painful. I found that waiting for someone's business to get better is a bad bet for sales for me, right? If you're waiting for someone to get more business, that's kind of a bad bet for sales. But the next morning, I get an idea from the morning paper. There on the front page of the local section is Jess's smiling face in front of her brand new bakery. So I cut it out and mail it to her with a note that says, "Found this article about you in the paper. Congratulations on the new bakery. I enjoyed meeting you and my best wishes for your new business." I put a stamp on it and stuck it in the mail. In the first month, nothing happened. In the second month, nothing happened. In the third month, nothing happened. Fourth, fifth, 6th, 12 months later, yes, after a full year had passed, I happened to walk back into her bakery. She spots me from the back and accusingly points a finger at me. "You!" She comes dashing around the counter, wiping her flour-caked hands on her apron to shake my hand vigorously as she says, "You sent me that article about me just after I opened. Give me another estimate and let's get started." So, the next time you find yourself thinking that follow-up doesn't work, here's how to rekindle your motivation. Ready? Remember that following up about you doesn't work. "Did you get my proposal? Did you see the email I sent you?" That doesn't work. But follow up about them, an article about them, a picture of them, an article that you did not write about their industry, that's memorable. Now, of course, I can't guarantee that you'll get a new client out of every follow-up. But I'll share with you in a second how quickly opportunities appear when you use the follow-up approach we're talking about today. Yes, the faster you take action, the quicker you're going to be able to get the leads that you want from the networking you're already doing and the people that you already know. And I'm super pumped to show you how it works. I'm going to go over the agenda really quickly. Then I'm going to be diving into this information because I'm going to share with you exactly how to do this in a little bit. So I'm going to go into my story a little bit, how I got into following up. And I know I just shared with you kind of a powerful moment, but I'm going to tell you how I got into it, kind of the backstory of how I started doing this and why I love doing it. Then I'm going to give you examples about 3 or 4 people who are benefiting from follow-up. Most of them are solopreneurs. They don't have a lot of time, and they need to get as much as they can out of each and every opportunity. They're from all different industries. I got a question coming in. Why did I wait 12? Susan, great question. Why did I wait 12 months? So that story I told about the bakery. Well, I wasn't waiting. Right, I was continuing growing my business. I wasn't sitting around waiting for her to call me back. It's just that when and that's the thing. You have to keep generating these leads because you don't know when people are going to want to get back to you. But the thing is, I followed up in a way that she remembered me, and the next time I saw her, she signed up. And you know what? If I had walked in 4 months or 6 months later, it might have happened then. But I'm just saying, 12 months. And again, I'm not suggesting that you sit around waiting for 12 months. I'm suggesting that you use these techniques, and as you use these techniques consistently, you'll start getting more and more leads that are coming in over time. That's a great question, Susan. Thank you. So we're going to talk about people who are using follow-up and how it does. Then we're going to talk about following up so people return your calls. All right, so a quick show of hands, again, in the chat box. How many people expect people to call them back, and how many actually get those return calls? So when you send something out, when you put something out there, do you expect people to call you back, and do they call you back? So you can put in yes, yes, or yes, no, or no, no. So once again, do you expect people to call you back, and do they actually call you back? So go ahead and let me know in the chat box whether that's true for you. So yes, no, 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 yes, no, no, yes, yes, sometimes, great. So very cool. So some of you may not always have people calling you back, but you'll have times when people will reach out to you. Very cool. So some of you already understand the power of follow-up, and you're already doing extremely well, and that's awesome. So hopefully I can teach you some new stuff so you can do even more and how to leverage your time even better. We got a bunch of people who don't expect calls back but do get calls back. That's really cool. And Marie is pleasantly surprised, and you'll start to be. I continue to be pleasantly surprised when people get back to me, but it will start to be more your expectation. Again, when you do the kind of work we're doing today, you'll have more of that expectation that people will get back to you. So next part of the agenda is the 3-step no rejection follow-up system. The 3-step no rejection follow-up system. This is going to be the main content, going over exactly what I do throughout the entire process. I mean, okay, there's a lot that goes on with follow-up. There's a lot behind the scenes. There's a lot that happens before meeting people, prospecting, having business cards, making that initial contact, starting conversations, transitioning to business talk, making sure you don't get stuck talking to one person. Then there's the second part, which is the follow-up process. Once you've met someone the first time, you have to go do something else. Then there's the third part where people strengthen the relationship. And that's where people make all their sales, because you don't ever close anything on the first follow-up. So you have to have a real solid system so you can develop that trust and those relationships. So there's really 3 parts to doing effective follow-up. I'm going to be sharing with you the middle part, really the process for laying the groundwork, so that when you follow up with people, they will be eager to take your call. So that's during the webinar. And then at the very end of this training, I'll be showing you how you can take the whole package. We've got an advanced training for those who are interested in signing up, really how to make the most out of follow-up. So you can take what I give you now and apply it, and it'll work, and you get much better results. And you can also take the whole thing with the advanced training. Then we're going to be talking about that, how to really take it to the next level. I'm going to do a Q&A at the end for about 15 minutes. We'll go over questions. If there are any questions that I haven't answered, you can always email me, and I'll be happy to answer them. But I'll answer as many questions as I can at the end of the webinar in those 15 minutes. Then we'll do the bonus giveaway. Remember that I'm going to give someone a free half-hour call with me, whoever interacts the best and comes up with the best follow-up approach in the chat box. So take good notes. I hope you've got pen and paper in front of you. Share your work in the chat box. And again, I'll wait until the very end so we can get the most amount of interaction possible. So keep chatting about the content of this webinar, because if you only have one chat, then you're pretty much not going to be chosen. We've already got a lot of great chats coming back. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So let's go ahead and get started. So are you ready? The first part of the agenda, a little about me. I'm going to fly through this pretty quickly because I want to get through this content here in a second. But for those who don't know me, I want to talk about this for a quick second. A little bit about me. Back in 2001, I was living the dream. I was being paid 6 figures a year with plenty of stock options at a web startup called Informio. I was being paid to develop highly reliable telephony software systems that could handle thousands of simultaneous callers in every major city across the country. I was on a fast track to being a VP of engineering when one day, 14 and a half years ago, it all came crumbling down. Literally. 2 planes flew into the Twin Towers in New York. IT spending dried up. Our venture capitalists pulled back their money. And on January 1st, 2002, I was unemployed for the first time in my 15-year computer career. There were no computer jobs, and I had a very strong motivation for finding a way to make money. I did not want to move back in with my parents. So I started looking for a new career. Long story short, I bought in on a franchise called Fish Window Cleaning. And this is me, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, in May of 2002 when I start my window cleaning business. And I spend the next year and a half doing everything: cleaning, selling, hiring, payroll, collections. I was the original man with many hats. And one day, I meet this guy named Tom Vance. Tom was the membership director of the Cambridge Chamber of Commerce the day I walked in to sell them window cleaning. I walked out with a chamber membership. And as we cleaned the chamber windows that first time, Tom approached me about a new idea he had to start up networking groups under the umbrella of the chamber. I spent the next 3 years working closely with Tom on networking groups, coming up with ideas, trying them, keeping what worked, mastering the whole process, the process of developing those relationships that lead to sales. And one day, this was back in 2005, I introduced the guy who was running my window cleaning business, who's actually still running my window cleaning business for me, to my networking group and started networking for my own business, Improv Andy. Now, I know that networking works, but the thing is, it's easy to overlook just how well it's working. I realized one day that the group of people I met 8 years ago through Tom Vance account for over $75,000 in sales in my window cleaning business every year. Now, I'm not saying that networking is the only reason my business topped $750,000 in revenue last year, but it's the benefit of using this follow-up system over time. That money that comes in from that is really easy money to close. And here's the real kicker. Earlier this year, I get a call from a woman I've never met. She was referred from a guy I had followed up with a few times using some of the techniques we'll be talking about today, but I had never met him, and then it kind of fizzled out. This woman was looking for a coach for her group, and the guy referred her to me. There was no one else in the running. I named my price and did the job. And the interesting thing is, I was annoyed when I was following up with that guy initially that he hadn't become a customer. Like it just hadn't worked out. But it turns out he became much more valuable because he refers me to customers. And I realized that other people are prospecting for me. When you're following up correctly, you don't have to make all the contacts. People will bring leads to you, and those are the easiest leads to close. So I'm an engineer turned entrepreneur. I don't clean windows anymore. I spend 5-7 hours a week in my window cleaning business, and the rest of the time I coach other business owners, give presentations, develop training programs. I got a couple of good comments coming in, so I wanted to do those. Do I recommend joining a local chamber of commerce? That depends. That's something we can talk about in the advanced training. That's definitely something that goes on in the advanced training. Giving is great, but there's a way to give too much from Kathy. Yes. Ways to give correct. So Kathy's asked a question. What are ways to give correctly so you're memorable? People want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about in the 3-step no rejection follow-up system. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about, Kathy. So I encourage you to stay tuned because you're right. You can give too much. And what I like to encourage people to do is don't give thinking you're not going to get anything back. You can give, but you can also be expecting to get results during that. So once again, the work that I do now is I coach other business owners, give presentations, develop training. No, you can only see your own comments, Camilla. Yeah, they just come to me. So I've been a finalist for Small Business of the Year and Franchisee of the Year. I've won sales awards and inspiration awards and been on the radio and TV. I even hosted a few shows. But here's the thing I'm most excited about, most passionate about, what networking has done for me. It allows me the freedom to do what I want. So for me, I want to be able to chase my dreams and live them, not just talk about them. I want to be able to pursue them on a daily basis and do what fills me up energetically. I spend 3 full weeks every summer at the beach with my family, which doesn't include our Disney World vacation back in April or our trip to Storyland this September. And I play basketball in the local league, and I go downhill skiing as often as I can. And this fills me up. Getting the opportunity to know that I have my business in place, that it's running in the back end, I've got passive income coming in, and this follow-up system is supporting that, that I can play the piano and travel and do what I want with my family. It's a very powerful experience and feeling for me to be able to do that. And I don't know if anyone else feels that way, that they don't want to run their business 15 to 20 hours a day, work really hard at it, but set up the systems and leverage the tools that support saving you time. And that's really what follow-up has done for me. I kind of, again, stumbled into it by accident because someone gave me an opportunity to join a group, and then I took it and ran with it. And it allows me to do everything else I want to do. I feel so blessed and so grateful every day. I don't take any of this for granted. But that's enough about my story. I probably went on a little too long, but I wanted to give people an example of who I am and what I've created so that you know that I'm a guy who has no business or sales experience, who got laid off, and I can do this stuff and chase my dreams at the same time, travel the world, then everyone here who's extremely intelligent, who's got the experience, who's got the drive as well, I know you can do this equally as well, if not better. Okay, you just got to have the right system, and you got to take the right action. So it's my goal to share with you the system right now, and then you got to be committed to taking the action, because if you just think about it, it's not going to happen. So here's the thing about follow-up. It works when you do it well and consistently, and it creates opportunities that you could never anticipate. And I just get so frustrated when I see people not being successful, when I see them putting off follow-up for any one of a number of imaginary reasons. And they're all imaginary, folks. Any reason you think you've come up with for not following up, it's completely imaginary. Because with just a slight change in approach, follow-up can bring you lots of qualified leads. So I'm going to share some case studies with you in just a second of people, most of whom who had been in networking were doing okay, but now that they're following up more consistently, they have more leads than they can handle. It works. And that's why it's a perfect time for you to jump in and start following up effectively right now. I'm not talking about 6 months down the line. I'm talking there's like someone on your list right now that you can follow up with right after this program. You know the person I mean. You know there's someone you're supposed to follow up with and you're not. You know the person I mean. Go ahead and apply what you learned today. It works and it generates profits. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Some people try to make it complicated and scary, and it just isn't. Okay. I'm going to share with you some 3 case studies of average ordinary people who are creating some really cool results with follow-up. I'm going to go through this kind of pretty quickly because I want to get to the content here in a second. So Jack is a buddy of mine who I met years ago through a few different networking connections. His dad is a master relationship builder using a Rolodex, and Jack has all these great pictures of the actual Rolodex stuffed with papers. Right? Remember when that was how you kept track of your contacts? Wow. So Jack has all the sales experience, but his networking results aren't that impressive. So I finally convinced him to sit down for my 2-hour Elevator Pitch Complete coaching program. He tried out his new pitch later that week, and here's what he had to say. I gave my new 30-second elevator pitch at a networking event the other night, and 2 people approached me afterwards to invite me to do presentations for their company. Thanks for your help. See what we have here. This is just the beginning of the story, because now he has to follow up. These are 2 great opportunities for him. Now he has to get those people back on the phone and schedule the presentations. We all know how excited people are at the event. Then you try to reach out to them, and crickets. So again, we're going to be talking today through how to do this. So when we get to the content here, I'll show you how to turn that opportunity into a talk, then a proposal. Then you have to get back in touch about the proposal. You have to follow up about that. Then you have to schedule the work. Then you have to, well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I think you see what I mean. The opportunities mean nothing if you can't follow up effectively. And I got David saying I'm 1,200 miles from my sales territory, so networking groups don't work much. That's true, networking groups don't, but there is some way that you're developing relationships. There are people that you know, and however you're developing those relationships, that's the way. So networking doesn't have to be face-to-face anymore. It can be over the time. And Sue, there's no reason to loathe doing proposals. There's a nice template that I'll show you later on that you just fill it in and it works. It's really exciting. And proposals, of course, that's how you get paid. Like that's how you get paid. So no need to loathe those. I'm glad, because you want to follow up to get to the point that they say there's a proposal, and then you give them a proposal and you sign up to work. Like that's the way sales works. That's how all this follow-up works, right? That you're just step by step, you're just working them through the steps. So Anne is one of the most difficult to differentiate industries, right? Website design. There are a lot of these folks. So she took me up on a coaching offer for one of my keynote speeches and worked out a new pitch for her. And this one's really exciting because one of the top questions I get is, where do I find better events? Anne proves that there are no bad events, just bad elevator pitches. Here's what she had to say. I was at a networking event the other night. It wasn't a great event, but I was sitting next to a business coach who now wants to meet with me to learn how I can help her clients. Then I was talking to someone in the hall who knows someone who's a perfect referral for me. It works. You bet it works. And there it is again. So this is just the very first step, right? The elevator pitch is just the very first step that gets you the opportunity to follow up. You know, when you're clear about what you're doing, that's good. But she has to sit down and meet with that business coach. What's she going to say to that business coach when she sits down? How is she going to set up the time? What's she going to say to get them to schedule that time? Should she email or call today or next week? What should her email or voicemail say? Again, we're going to be talking about all of that. And you see how this happens. There are opportunities everywhere that people just leave lying around because they don't know exactly what to say, when to say it, who to say it to keep the process moving forward. And Sue, thank you for your honesty. I know I'm losing opportunities because I put off my proposals, right? And it's the same thing. Everyone does that, right? That's why I'm doing this talk today, because I see this all the time with my clients and with myself, that people put it off. And what we're going to be working on is a way to just know that you're doing it. You know exactly what you're working towards. You know exactly how it's going to go. And you know that people will get back to you. You know that the system will work. And so, again, with this system, you'll never again be at a loss for what to do. You won't get stuck as to, oh, what should I do next? So, moving along, Craig is in an even tougher industry, insurance. I mean, these people are crawling at every Chamber of Commerce event, just insurance people everywhere. And this guy's been around for a while, and he's been quite successful. I mean, he's got one of the bigger firms here, which meant I was even more surprised when he told me the benefits he got from his new pitch. In my 31 years in business, I've had maybe 2 people ask a clarifying question after hearing my old elevator pitch. Since working with you, I've tripled that number in less than a week. So here's a guy who's networking all the time and never starting any conversations. No idea that he's supposed to start conversations. He had no idea that until you start a conversation, any follow-up is a cold call. That's one of the more important things I'll say today, that this idea that you go to a networking event and collect business cards and then follow up, that's bad follow-up. That's cold calling, right? I mean, the reason people hate that so much is that that's cold calling, right? Nobody likes cold calling. And what we're talking about today is how to start those conversations, how to get into a conversation so that people are actually looking forward to talking to you, right? That's really how this works. I got a couple of people saying, can't wait to hear more about the foundation. Great, that's why we're here. That's what we're getting to. So let's take another quick look at that, because Craig has been successful working his tail off, turning all those opportunities into cold calls, right? That's right. I'll say that again. He's been following up in a way that he takes a warm lead and treats it like a cold call. That's backwards, folks. No wonder people are so upset about follow-up. No wonder it has such a bad rap. And now he's treating them like warm leads, which is much better for everyone, right? We always like working with warm leads. So Liz is actually probably my favorite story, because when I met Liz, it's probably 4 years ago now, she was an introvert director in a biotech firm, and she's now CEO. And in those short years, she's built up her network so that she gets job offers every week. That's right. I mean, she's very happy with where she is. She's not looking for a job. But when she sits down to have lunch with people in her network, hint, 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 she's following up. She's using part of the follow-up process. So when she sits down to have lunch with people, they let her know that if she's ever looking, they want her to be her first call. Now imagine having that kind of job security. A dozen people every month asking you to call them if you're ever in the market for a job. And here's what Liz had to say. I found that I was creating a stronger network of colleagues who were eager to reciprocate when the opportunity presented itself. Over the last few months, I've been amazed by how many opportunities have opened up for me as a result. People are eager to reciprocate. Bam, like that's exactly what we're talking about. And I got a great question coming in. Marie asked, can you explain, take a warm lead and turn it into a cold call? Marie, I have the perfect example for you. I was at a networking event a couple of months ago, and I met this guy who he's a insurance kind of financial advisor kind of guy. And we're talking, and he's all about theater, like he does community theater, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. I'm a community theater guy going way back. I mean, there's a bunch of kind of stuff that we connected about right there on the floor. I was like really excited to call him and follow up again using the kind of information I'll be sharing with you in a minute. And so he had my information. He collected my business card, and then 2 days later he cold called me. Right, he got me on the phone. Like there was no glimmer of recognition that we had talked before, that we had anything in common. We'd had a pretty cool conversation. And he calls me up and tries to talk me into coming over to him as a financial advisor. And he skipped, he turned a warm lead into a cold call, right? I mean, there were plenty of things we could have done together. There were plenty of things we could have talked about. There were plenty of opportunities there. But instead of exploring those opportunities, instead of talking to me like a human being and taking the opportunity to get to know me and develop that trust, and maybe I could refer him some people once I find out kind of what he's about, he just tries to talk me into signing up for his service. And folks, that is the biggest waste of time. Like if you're going to networking events and then cold calling off the business cards you collect, it's a huge waste of time. You're going to be so happy with what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes, because it's less work and much more fun and all that kind of stuff. Kathy, I see you got a great story about networking event. Thank you for sharing that. I want to keep moving on the stuff. So when anyone here, we've been talking about follow. When anyone here, just type your comment in the comment box if you'd like to be one of these success stories, in the future, and start following up so opportunities just fall into your lap. If you're interested in that type of game, that type of business, and being a success story that I can feature in the future, go ahead and type in the question box if you would, because that's what it's all about. It's about talking to people who want to talk to you, who respect you enough to return your calls and send you referrals, people who are looking out for your best interests. So go ahead and let me know in the chat box if you're interested in having this kind of success. I see people are, of course, yes, good setup, yes. So the yes, interested, wonderful, great. Anthony says, how do you find the people to follow up with? Well, I talk about that in the advanced training, so we'll get to that toward the end. Yeah, boom, says Michael. Great, great. Okay, very cool. Right. So who wouldn't be? Good, good. So I'm pumped, engaged, excited about this. So hopefully you're taking notes and getting ready to interact in the chat box. So we're coming to that part of the program. We'll do the giveaway here towards the end, but let's get into the next part of the content, the next part of the agenda that we talked about, which is how to follow up so people return your calls. So here's the formula. Hopefully you're taking notes. This is the really fun part. This is the cool, fun part about follow-up. We really start to gauge how much sales you're going to do because you know the averages and the numbers. So I'm going to give you the averages if you already have people to talk to. And note that I work with people in business networking, so that's how I think of finding people to connect with, because cold calling will get you sales, but it's a daily grind. Every morning you got to go and hit those same number of calls, and you're not leveraging those longer-term relationships. And so when I come at this, when I come at follow-up, it's a lot of times from the point of view of getting to know people. And it's similar in the sales cycle, right? In the sales cycle, you're still getting to know people, trust them enough that they'll come and work with you. But I'm assuming that you have some events you can attend or some ways of reaching out. There's some way that you're connecting with people. And again, this is kind of based on the averages. So don't say that when you meet your first people, it's definitely what will happen. Though I have seen this kind of stuff happen for a lot of people around these averages. Some are a little better, some are a little worse, but these are about the averages. So let's assume that you're going to an event with 40 people. It might have 15 people, it might have 150 people, but I'm just going to say it has about 40. And so when your elevator pitch has a strong call to action, you can expect about 7% of people will approach you with a legitimate lead. So that's 3 people who are prospects. And also in the advanced training, I show you how to pick 3 non-prospects. And this is really the key. When you talk about following up, people are excited to hear from you. These non-prospects are really the key to that. And when you follow up with them and have a one-on-one, and again, we'll talk about that in the content coming up in a minute, you can expect that between 2 of them, you'll get another 2 or 3 prospects to talk to. So that's 6 prospects total. And the standard sales average is to close 16.7% of your prospects. So you then ask yourself, what's the price of your product or service? Is it $500? When you're using the skills you learn here, you'll start making a sale from every event. Every time you meet a bunch of people, you'll end up with a sale. Now, it probably won't be that week, and it probably won't be with someone who is at the event, right? Then this networking has a way, you just kind of send feelers out, and interesting things start to happen. Like that woman I like that guy I followed up with, and he introduced me to a perfect client for me. That was some of the best work. It was kind of the most exciting work I've done all year. So it's going to end up being someone who knew someone who knew someone, right? I mean, that follow-up looked like a failure, but then it did actually turn into something. So the really interesting question is, what's the lifetime value of that customer? They'll buy other products and services from you. They'll refer you to other clients. Is it $10,000? Is it $100,000? Is it more? So it's pretty cool. You can kind of figure out the math once you know how many people you're going to meet. And that's kind of the fun part. Figure out, okay, cool, then I just need to find the right places where I can, which I teach in the advanced training, and how to create more opportunities to talk to people and become a better network and deliver more value and support people in solving their problems. You show them you have a solution to their problem. And that can be a service or a product or coaching or a mobile app, whatever it may be. And once you have leads, you're in your wheelhouse, right? I mean, if someone says, hey, I think I'm interested in your stuff, let's sit down and talk about it. I mean, you'll probably close more than 1 in 6 of those. I mean, I hope so anyway. And that's the great part about this kind of follow-up. You start meeting people who want to talk to you about what you do, right? Like a lot of people are chasing after people trying to talk them into talking to them. And what we're talking about is kind of flipping that around, that what you're doing is following up in a way that the right kind of people are coming to you. And yes, it does take time. The person that you meet today, again, I had that story about 12 months later. The person you meet today may close in a month or 3 or 12, which is why it's so important to keep following the system and to keep meeting people, right? You got to keep people coming in. People. I don't like the word pipeline, but you got to keep meeting people and keep doing this work with them, because that's how these opportunities start to snowball. So let's get on to the next step of the presentation. There's a lot of juicy good stuff. Make sure again you're taking lots of notes. This is the 3-step no rejection follow-up system. All right. This is the good stuff. So I'm going to give you the formula right now, and I really urge you to take notes on this and type your thoughts into the chat box. And I'm going to kind of go through it pretty quickly. I'm going to actually take a sip of water because I'm going to fly through this just a second. All right. Are you ready? For the formula, there are 3 steps. The 3 steps are to prepare before the event, pitch at the event, and profit after the event. And you can't skip a step. That story I told the guy cold calling me is he's trying to profit before he's prepared and pitched, right? And that's the mistake a lot of people make. They try to short circuit the process. And you cannot short circuit this process, and it is a process. And it works really well, and you have to trust that it is a process. So there are no shortcuts. These three elements flow naturally together to start the right kinds of conversations, the kind of conversations that continue long after the event and turn into profitable relationships. So those three steps are prepare, pitch, and profit. Let's start with prepare. And you may be surprised to learn, a lot of you know I'm an elevator pitch coach, and when I talk about preparing for an event or preparing to meet people, that does not include the 30-second elevator pitch. Not at first, anyway. I mean, sure, eventually you want to know exactly what to say if you introduce yourself to a crowd. But spending too much time on the 30-second elevator pitch blinds you to the better opportunities that exist at networking events. Someone's put in earlier that you can pretty much network anywhere. Kathy said she was directed at the company's kitchen. She had started a conversation with a woman in the kitchen, and it turned into one of the best referrals she's ever had. So again, thanks, Kathy, for sharing that story. I wanted to save that story till I got to this point. So there are all these opportunities at networking events if you're open to the conversations. And the thing that happens is someone asks you, what do you do? And the best way to answer is with 7 words. And which 7 words? I can hear you all thinking. And you're going to work that out right now. So in the advanced training, I'll show you several ways to come up with a great 7 words. For today, let's just go straight forward and come up with 7 words to describe your work. So I'm going to put a few examples up on the screen. But what I want you to do, it's your turn. I can only spend a couple of minutes on this because I'm trying to get through this content, but it's really important to have a 7-word pitch. And again, I'll talk more about how you can get that. But part of it, a lot of times I work with clients. If I just say, tell me what to do in 7 words, it comes out pretty well. So go ahead, come up with your 7 words, type it in the chat box, and be quiet for about 30 seconds as you do this. What 7 words, does it have to be exactly 7 words? No, it can be fewer words. It can be a few more words, but if you're more than like 12, that's probably too many. You can say most of what you need to say usually in 7 to 12 words. Oh, great. Sue has a great question. What if you do more than one thing? If you do more than one thing, Sue, you have to pick one. You cannot network about 2 different things. You have to network about. And again, I'm not saying that you can't provide more than one service. Right? You can keep all your products. You can keep doing all the good stuff you do, but you want to. But you have to. But when you're networking, it has to be about one thing. It can't be about multiple things. I help IBM lovers make the system more lovable to others. Very, very interesting, Maria. That's very interesting. I'm a singer for corporate events. Carol, I love that. I love that. That is great. Hillary, I help companies get and keep their name in front of customers. Hillary, yep, there'll be some ideas we'll come up with later to help tune that a little bit more, but that's a good start. Suzanne, hey Suzanne, good to see you. Help people find financial independence through business ownership. I love that, Suzanne. You've been working on that. Good work. Suzanne's a long-time client of mine. Raylan, I help business people promote their products and services. So, Raylan, I want you to be more specific about that. What kind of business? What kinds of services are they promoting? How do you promote it? Like, almost any marketing person promotes products and services, right? So you want to be a little more specific about the kinds of products you promote and kind of how you do that. I will choose what most people are looking. Sue, yes, exactly. Choose what most people are looking for you for, right? And the thing about the elevator pitch is that it's that first reason they're connecting with you, right? People want to sell, great lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, but that's not why people are coming to you. So Sue, yes. Just figure out why people are coming to you, and that's a great place to start. David, we purify water with ozone. I like that. That's just the right kind of intriguing. I'm not sure how that works, but that does sound interesting. Rajesh, I help shops increase their shopping cart. That's a good start. It's a good start. We might be able to make that. I help clients have a successful conference without burning out their staff. Shelley, I love that. That is great. See the kind of work that you all are doing with the 7 words, and what I'd encourage you to do. Take these 7 words with you. Make a note of what you put in. You can still see it on your screen. Make a note of what you said. Start using it. You will find that you have the kinds of conversations. I've just given you a really microcosm of coaching. When you say these kinds of things, you'll be amazed the kind of conversations that happen. Then you'll need the follow-up, right? People are going to say, I need to introduce you to someone. That's when you're going to start needing the follow-up. I just medical practice and secure healthcare data. HIPAA, Kimberly. Hey, good to see you again, Kimberly. Thanks for being on the call. Help people find their dream home. So Charlotte, again, dream home, it's a little bit vague. Like what makes it a dream home? Is it a $1 million home? Is it a home on a big estate? Like what are they really, talking about everyone, dream home means something different to everyone. So talk about an actual dream home that you helped someone find. What was it about that house that made it a dream home? I help nonprofits reduce expenses, which is equal to increasing donations. I like that, David. That's a little bit longer than I like, but I think I can let you get away with that. I think that'll do. We're the clean guys in the trashy business. I hope that you're actually taking out the trash, Julie. I hope that's what you're actually doing for work, is the trashy business. So that's a good example. Trashy business might kind of lean the wrong way, but try it out. See what kind of response you get. And I'll say this too, like with the elevator pitch, the responses that you get back. If you don't like the responses you're getting back, just change what you're saying, right? I mean, if you find that you say something and you're not really getting the right results, try changing it. And again, this is the kind of thing you say with this. And I'll say too, that the other thing I like to tell people is that if you're at an event with 40 people and you start a conversation with 3 or 4 of them, right, that's good. That's a good night. So what we're talking about here isn't going to start a conversation with everyone, right? You go up, you introduce yourself to someone, you shake their hand, you tell them what you do, you try to get into a conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But if a conversation doesn't start, move on and meet someone else. You're looking to support that. So these are coming in. I can only do a couple more of these, but everyone's doing a really great job with these. So Kathy, I designed programming to reduce violence. Kathy, more power to you. Like, I love the kind of work that you're doing. Kimberly said, hi, Andy. Hi, Kimberly. Good. Thanks for being on the call. Carl, I haven't worked at all on this. Great. I'm glad you're here. That's why we're working on it. I'm a chiropractic advocate. I want to educate people on their healthcare options. You know what, Carla? I think being a chiropractic advocate does it. I think that may get you the right kinds of questions. I'd encourage you. I wouldn't worry about the educating people on healthcare options. I think chiropractic advocate, but see how that goes. I know a lot of people who do the kind of work that you do, and I've never heard anyone describe it that way. So love to help people restore their identity when breached. That's good. I mean, that's always in the news. I help avoid copy or lease quicksand. David, that's good. I don't like to go too heavy into the metaphors, but I think you're heading in a good direction. Like that. So I help promote business through social media. That's great. I think that's a great thing to say. Rob, we're the residential glass restore, repair, and replacement gurus. Great. I think that's great. And Melissa, I handle large account sales for the largest recycler in North America. I think that's great. Good. So there's still a couple more coming in. I want to continue on with the program, but you kind of see what we're talking about. This is much easier to say than having that kind of long thing to say. And remember, this is just the first step in following up effectively. You have to create interest. And you don't create interest with generics. You create interest with specifics. You have to create an environment where people want to hear from you. So you want to go in with the 7 words. So again, write down what you said. Put it on a piece of paper. Keep it with you. Put it on a card in your wallet, whatever you do, in your purse, wherever you keep it, because you want to try it. And that's really the thing about networking. You want to know what you're saying, because then you can tune it, right? I mean, I know what my elevator pitch is now. I know what sometimes I try to change it. I know whether it's working better or worse. That's exactly the kind of thing that I do. So great. So that's good. Good work, everyone. And again, if you have more questions, you can always email me afterwards or ask questions when we get to the Q&A part at the end here. So again, we're looking for something that's kind of 7 to 12 words that gets people interested, right? Some specifics in that. So great. Now you're prepared, and I'll tell you that what you've got now, this makes you more prepared than pretty much anyone else at the networking event, right? Because we've just spent about 4 minutes thinking about what we're going to say, thinking about how we're going to describe what we do. And most people do not think about that until they're actually at the event. And so thinking about this beforehand means that you're prepared. So let's talk about the pitch. And let's start talking about the pitch by how not to pitch. So I was at a networking event having a really nice chat with a guy about families and vacations and traffic. It may sound dull, but we were connecting. It was a good conversation. And then this Yahoo comes up, and this is actually somebody I know. This is a guy I know. He came up. He bursts into our conversation, looks at the other guy seriously and intently and says, "So, what do you do?" I mean, folks, talk about a conversation stopper. This is like giving the punchline at the beginning of the joke, right? I mean, you don't jump to everything. I think I'm connecting with people. Asking people what do you do is not a way to connect with people. I'm going to give you 2 questions now that you can ask that are going to give you much better connectivity with people. And they sound like really straightforward and dull questions, but that's what you want, right? You want to just start the conversation. You want to start the conversation gently and naturally. So the first one is, do you come to a lot of these kinds of events? You meet someone, shake their hand. Hi, I'm Andy. Hi, I'm Julie. Nice to meet you. So Julie, do you come to a lot of these kinds of events? I've said that to the event organizer. I've said that to someone who's networking for the very first time. It's a really easy question to answer. It tells you a little bit about them and their kind of networking. It tells you about who they might be able to introduce you to. It's a really great question for getting a lot of information. I encourage you to write that down, take a note of that. Do you come to a lot of these kinds of events? It's magic question number 1 for networking. And again, note that when you go to the event, you're not starting with what do you do. If someone asks you, you can use that, and that'll, what you just came up with, those 7 words, that'll get you into good conversations. The ones you all came up with are great. Trust me, they're great. Use them, and you'll be amazed at the kind of conversations you start. But when you're just meeting someone, it's best to start with a different kind of question, right? Because most people don't know how to answer this, right? We just said nobody else has actually done this work. So most people don't know how to answer this. So if you come to a lot of these kinds of events, that'll get you a lot of information. The second question is along similar lines. How long did it take you to get here this morning, assuming you're at a morning event? And the reason this works is that it's very safe to talk about traffic and driving and the commute and, oh man, it took me 40 minutes to get here. Really, where were you coming from? Now you know either where they live or where they work. Like you're starting to gather up information. And I got a question earlier that, you know, maybe after you talk to someone, you can write down some notes about them to follow up later. Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about here, right? What you're doing is you're kind of setting it up so that you can get some information. You get them to tell you some things that you can then ask more questions about, right? That's how conversations go. You have to start conversations. So I test a lot of conversation starters, and these are the best that I've come up with. I encourage you to just try them verbatim. Sue said have you been to this group before? Yep. And again, all you're looking for is something that gets you into conversations, and the conversation almost necessarily won't be about business, right? Just talk to them. Just start a conversation. You know, it's the kind of thing, these kinds of conversation starters give you a leg up because you're networking before they even know you started networking, right? This doesn't feel like networking. It's just having a conversation. But you're gathering information about them. You're getting to know them. You're starting to build that relationship. That's where this starts. And again, these questions, they give you a lot of information about this person, their interests, their family, right? They might mention the kind of car they drive. They might mention where they came from. They might mention the route they took. They might have dropped their kids just off at school. There's all sorts of information you can glean from that. Listen to what they say and ask follow-up questions. And this is important because if you can't get the person talking about themselves, you'll never get them talking about business, ever. So don't talk about business yet, right? When you go to a networking event, don't be so excited to talk about business. When can you bring up business? You can't. In fact, you can, but you don't want to. Let them bring it up, because when they bring it up, that means you're starting to make a connection. That means you've had a conversation. Now they're a little bit more interested in you. That's a much better place to get to. And when they ask you what you do, use your 7 words. And then get them talking again. Ask them what they do. Keep asking follow-up questions. So a follow-up question, for those of you who are joining us from home, there are 2 elements of a follow-up question. It has to be open-ended, and it has to be related to something that they just said. So if someone says, yeah, I just dropped my kids off. You know, I just came from dropping my kids off. You can't say, hey, nice weather we're having, right? That's not a good follow-up question. A good follow-up question is, oh, where do you go to school is a closed-ended question, but you can ask something, oh, what grades are they in? That's sort of the closed-ended question is okay. But this is why that was so awkward when that guy busted in, because it was a total shift in gears, right? We were having a conversation. You're looking for it to flow. And as you get them talking, the talk may come naturally around to business. That can happen. And now again, I'll say again, in a room full of 40 people, you may be able to do this with about 2 or 3 people, right? I mean, I went on a date once. I remember it is, do you like it? Do you have any pets? Cat. Oh, what do you like about cats? They're furry. I was like, really, like you're giving me yes or no answers. It was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever been at. But remember, on a good night, you'll make connections with 2 to 3 people. So most of the people, they won't ask what you do, or they'll answer your questions with 2-syllable answers. Reach out your right hand, shake their hand. Tell them it's nice meeting them, and ask if there's anyone at the event you can introduce them to, right? Everyone's looking to be connected with people, and especially for events you go to a lot, you may be able to introduce them to someone that'll help them. That's a good way. Make the introduction, then go on and network with other people. And if they don't know, then encourage them to keep networking, right? You're looking for the 2 or 3 people you enjoy talking to. Because if you don't enjoy talking to them at the event, it does not get any easier on the follow-up, right? If you can't start a conversation at the event, what are you going to talk about when you get together for coffee, right? So when you find yourself connecting with someone, tell them you're enjoying the conversation, and ask if they'd be interested in sitting down for coffee to learn more about each other and explore how you can help each other grow your businesses. Once again, these are the key phrases. And when you're talking, people say to me all the time, I'm at a networking event. What's the next step? The next step is to sit down for coffee to explore how you can help each other grow your respective businesses. I'll say that one more time. when you're at a networking event, the best follow-up. Well, so let me stop that for a second. If you do get, I just got a question. What if you actually run into a prospect? If you run into a prospect, set up a sales meeting, right? For me, business networking is about meeting people who aren't prospects, because most of the time it's hard to find the right timing of a person being in the room. So the real opportunity at a networking event is that you'll meet people who you can get to know and can refer you people. That's really the big opportunity no one knows about. Everyone goes to networking events thinking they're going to meet their prospects, but you really don't. So if you meet a prospect at a networking event, that's great. Set up a sales meeting, go back to networking with other people. Right? You don't network with your prospects. You network with non-prospects. You do sales, right? I mean, if someone said, hey, I need to sit down and talk to you about your service, set up a time later that day. You'll stop by their office. You can sit down and talk about it. That's a good kind of sales thing. That's a great result. For the other people that just enjoy talking to, right? So there's two reasons you follow up. One is they need your service. The second is just enjoy talking to them. And you can sit down, coffee, help explore their businesses. I got the same question again. What if you run into a prospect? And again, if you run into a prospect, stop networking, set up a sales call or a sales meeting or whatever you like to do with people. Just set up a time to talk about what they're looking for. Again, don't do that on the networking floor. You're missing out on opportunities to connect with people. So if you meet a prospect, just set up a sales meeting. If you meet someone who's not a prospect who you like, who's interesting to talk to, set up a time to sit down for coffee. How you can explore, help each other grow their businesses. These are the key phrases, folks, and this is the kind of thing. So good. So that's prepare and pitch, right? Again, we prepared by coming up with the 7 words for what we do. We pitch by starting conversations not about business, right? We start about getting people into conversations. So that was Leslie's very observant. That was an interesting handshake with left hand. Thanks, Leslie. Yes, you're very observant. Thank you for that. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the picture I have. I must have reversed it or something. Maybe I put it in the mirror. So these are the key phrases. So now we're ready to profit. Right now we've been talking about laying the foundation, and what we've just talked about is the first step in that foundation. You're being clear about who you are and what you do. You're starting conversations not necessarily related to what you do. You're just finding people that you enjoy talking to. And now you can actually follow up effectively. Now we're ready. And so after each networking event, the process here is you pick the 3 people you most enjoy talking to. And notice now that when I leave a networking event, I only have 3 business cards with me, the 3 people I enjoy talking to. I enjoy talking to you. We'd be interested in sitting down for coffee. We exchange business cards. That's the key, right? If someone just hands you a business card, you don't have a connection. If you talk to someone and you're planning to set up a one-on-one, that's a connection. They'll be expecting to hear from you. So after each networking event, pick 3 people you most enjoy talking to. Send them an email that suggests you get together for coffee to discuss how you can support each other and grow in your businesses. Now, here's the key. You're going to send that out to 3 people, and 2 of them will get back to you. Now, I don't know why this is. I've researched it. I've tried to figure it out. I do not understand why, if you pick 3 people that you had good conversations with and you send 3 people an email, and again, the advanced training has the exact email that you send that I've tested this with. You send out this same email, and 1 to 2 people will get back to you. So I don't know why. I just know it's true. At least one person will not respond, and do not send that person another email. Sometimes the best follow-up is knowing when not to follow up, right? Once again, sometimes the best follow-up is knowing when not to follow up. If you meet someone and they're interested in getting together and you email them and they don't get back to you, they're never going to return your calls, right? They're not going to be a good addition to your network. You've learned something about them. You can happily move on, right? It's not a rejection. You just know something about them. They're not good right now. Maybe later on you'll connect with them. Maybe some other time you'll meet with them, and that'll be fine. But when you're setting this up, if someone doesn't get back to you, that's fine. That's fine. Meet with the people who do respond. People will respond. Sit down with them, and you're going to ask them 3 things. Or you're going to ask them 2 things, and then there's a third piece of this. You ask them to tell you about their best customer, right? The way to learn about people, really, can you tell me about a recent client success? Can you tell me about the best customer you've worked with? When you get someone talking about that, that's really it. And in the advanced training, what we'll talk about is setting up these for you as well. Like when you sit down with someone, what do you talk about? What do you talk about as your best customer for that? And the other great question to ask is, I call it the starting point. How did you get into what you're doing? How did you get into insurance? How did you get into painting? How did you get into a window cleaning business? Right? If you asking people that question, people love talking about their story, and it tells you a lot of interesting things about them, what makes them tick, the kind of work they do, all this kind of stuff. And I'll say that when you talk this way with someone, when you talk about your customers you're working with, and you talk about how you got into what you're doing, share a little bit about yourself and where you're coming from, you're going to come up with people that you want to introduce them to. And the thing about introducing people, people say to me all the time, I gave them your name and number. Folks, that's not a referral. That's not an introduction. The only kind of introduction that professional people make, a co-introductory email. You get both. You call the other person, say, hey, I'd like to introduce you to this person. Is that okay? You get the okay. You send an email, and again, the scripts are all, the advanced training has all the scripts you would need for that, just exactly what you say to set that up. Send the co-introductory email. They both get the email, then they connect. That causes connections 95% of the time, maybe 99% of the time. Again, those are kind of the three things that happen at the effective one-on-ones. You decide you need to introduce each other to a few people, make those introductions by co-introductory email. You will be amazed at how quickly the opportunities appear. Great opportunities will start to appear. So prepare, pitch, and profit. Now you know how to follow up. People are eager to hear from you. So now I want to ask you an important question. I want you to put down pen and paper. I want you to type something into the question box. I know you're still scribbling madly, but go ahead and put it down. My question for you is, and let's practice what we're doing. So what is the most surprising or valuable thing you just learned? We just went through a whole bunch of content about follow-up and everything. What is the most surprising or valuable thing that you just learned? Go ahead and share that with me in the chat box. So I love doing webinars that put the fun back in business networking. This is supposed to be fun, folks. I've been in front of over 1,000 people in the past 5 years in person on webinars, and over 20,000 people have used my online software tool to improve their elevator pitch and networking results. This is what I love to do. So what's valuable for me about this, that's what's valuable about this process, about using this follow. So let's take a look at what you're learning. All right, Maria, focus on the 2 to 3 people. Great. How to ask questions. Great. Must follow up about them. David, that's great. That's a good thing to hear. The goal of just 3 connections. Yep, great. To not start talking business right away. Great. 7-word elevator pitch, 7 to 12 words, and the right questions. Let it go. Not to worry about following up with a third person that did not respond. Linda, that is a great thing to take away from this. Get them talking about themselves. Don't talk about business. Good. Do connecting. Talk about business. Never start a conversation. How to start connecting. How to do a pitch. Great. Great. So you're all learning a lot. So what would it be like? One more question. What would it be like when you're doing this with ease? When you're following up and people are just, you don't have to go hunting people down. You don't have to go bother people there. They're coming to you. How will you feel, and what will you do with your time? So what will it be like when you follow up effectively? How's it going to feel for you? And what are you going to do with the time that you free up where you're not kind of taught pursuit of other folks? I just want to see what what it'll feel and what it'll feel like and what you're going to be doing. Make a good habit of it. Yep, great. People think. Which colors network more, be consistent. Great. Those are all great things. Relaxing and getting better results. Wonderful. Yes, absolutely. You need to pay this friends, not all business. Cal, that's a great point. Thanks for raising that. And networking it's working with friends. You don't mind calling them because you don't mind when your friends call you. That's never a problem. So I'm looking forward to spending time with people I like as opposed to cold calls. That's great, Linda. That is absolutely great. Good. Okay. So it sounds like you have fun, cool things you do with your time. And that's what I was able to do once I got done creating this process for myself. I had all this free time. I was go after what I love. I was playing the piano, skiing, writing books, spending time with my family. I'm doing things that I love. And someone said you need to find the right networking events. And again, what I teach in the advanced training here in a second, I'll tell you about how to get better results from what you're already doing, even if you don't think you're doing that much. Even if you're 1,200 miles from the people that you're talking to, remember, there are always people you can follow up with. You're just not sure what to say to them or how to do that. So everything you think sounds awkward, so you put it off. And if you have one of those opportunities, this is still something for you. So it's time to move on to the next part of the agenda. This is accelerating your success. I'm very excited to share this with you. It's something that I've been very proud of building and creating and helping a lot of other entrepreneurs and business owners leverage follow-up using this exact same process, this advanced training, and this formula on how to do it all yourself. So I'm really excited to introduce Ready, Set, Network Coaching. And this is really my favorite thing to work with people on because it helps so many people, like I've shared with you today, get better leads, make a lot more sales, spend time with people they like have conversations they like. It's just so much of a better way to be. So Ready, Set, Networking Coaching. So I want to tell you exactly what's included in the advanced training and how you can take action on getting it right now. It's 4 private coaching sessions with me. And it's really the best way to supercharge your follow-up results. We get started right away. You're going to get access to immediately right after you invest and get signed up in a second. I want to tell you all the importance of each session really quickly. We'll go over each one in a second. And I've got worksheets and PDFs that ask you very detailed questions. For each session, you're going to fill them out. as you go through the coaching program, because that's how you master the prepare, pitch, and profit system. I'm going to share with you exactly what that means in just a second. So in coaching session number 1, it's all about your elevator pitch. Together, we develop a power question to grab people's attention, a client's success to start the right kinds of conversations, and a call to action so people will follow up with you. That's right. With the right kind of elevator pitch, people will actually get in touch with you. Then we put it all together into 30-second elevator pitch that's fun to say, easy to memorize, and sounds like you. That takes about 45 minutes to put that all together. Then we spend the next 15 minutes on the conversational elevator pitch, some of what we worked on today, just tuning that, how to answer, what do you do, and the only other 2 questions you'll ever be asked. If you don't like talking to people, then maybe networking isn't for you. Or maybe it's just time to learn a new and simpler way to share your passion about what you do. Maybe it's time to start talking to people you enjoy talking to, like that, and that's certainly possible. So again, this isn't nearly as complicated as everyone tries to make it. So in this worksheet, you come up with exactly what to say. You're never again be wondering what to say. Even if you struggle with it for years, I work with people all the time who struggle for years, and we do this session, and then they know exactly how to talk about what they do. So coaching session number 2 is a vital conversation starter. So many people fail, make a lot of mistakes, thinking they can just show up at an event and get results. We'll pick a few events for you to attend, work out which conversations you'll start and with who, the best way to use your time at the event, how business cards are supposed to be used, how to get out of awkward conversations, how to figure out who's wasting your time and who's a really good connection. You learn and practice a few key phrases and questions to start the conversation, some simple ways to keep it going, move it to the next level, and if it's appropriate, to start talking about business. This module has the business networking strategy worksheet, and this is so critical to making the most effective use of your time. Just by bringing the sheet to an event and filling it out, you already have so many other people. So I go through that, and it's all very powerful in coaching session 2. Coaching session 3 is about effective one-on-ones. This is really the kicker. If you can't have meaningful conversations over coffee, it's a lot slower developing relationships and making connections in sales. So after you attend a networking event, we'll pick which people to reach out for one-on-ones. Whether you attend chamber events or BNI meetings or meetup luncheons, I'll show you how to figure out who would be a good connection and who will just waste your time. So you'll set up your one-on-ones, and we'll prepare exactly the questions you want to ask and your responses to those same questions. Talk about your best customer, we'll develop the best customer and your story about how you got into it. Because again, you don't want to go too long, you don't want it to be too short, you want to have the right kind of story. And if you've been part of a networking group for more than 3 months and haven't seen any results, then this is the key module for you. You're not going to make any results unless you know how to do one-on-ones. So coaching session number 4. This session is powerful. This is where it all comes together. Your prospects and your connections will work on the next level of one-on-ones, and by now almost certainly you'll have a few proposals to write. I'll share the template for writing the proposal that sells, and look for other good connections so you can write more proposals. And again, someone said she was scared of writing proposals. You won't be by the end of coaching session 4. Right? You'll look forward to them because that's how you make money. The proposals, again, part of this follow-up system is you follow up with people, you make connections, you talk to people, you get a proposal, you get a proposal request. You talk to them and say, hey, should I write that up in a proposal for you? And then you take this template, fill in your information, and fill in the pricing, and send it off. We can work on pricing too, how to price these things. So, how to take these connections you're developing and turn them into real client sales. Now, all the worksheets are included here. Everything you need to get in these worksheets, we'll go through them step by step. And a lot of you will say, well, but I want to get started sooner on my 30-second elevator pitch. And you're in serious luck because I do have a program called Be Unique, the Be Unique and Memorable Elevator Pitch Development System. I don't usually include this for my private clients, but anyone who signs up today gets instant access to that full system. It takes you step by step to developing both types of elevator pitches, plus my most advanced follow-up techniques. So again, my private clients don't automatically get access to this program, but anyone who signs up today gets instant access to this full program. And as a further thank you for being on the call today, I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm including, just for people who sign up today, a complimentary electronic copy of my book, The Elevator Pitch Handbook, the step-by-step guide to starting conversations. I'll give you instant access to the downloadable PDF. It's chock full of examples, samples, and templates of the 30-second elevator pitch. Plus, it goes through in detail a lot of what we've been talking about today, the reason you're networking, how to set up a pitch, how to get the conversation going. It really talks straight through all this conversational stuff. So here's what you get, the recap. There's the 4 private coaching calls. That's a $600 value right there. The worksheets for you to fill out all the material. You can't get those anywhere else. They're what make this whole system work. $350 for those. Then the Be Unique and Memorable development system. You can develop answers to only 3 questions you'll be asked in a networking event, plus 4 sentences to grab people's attention, start productive conversations, and call them to action. Then you put it all together into a 30-second elevator pitch. This is what we do in the first coaching session, but this is material that goes along with that. It's got more examples, and it helps you think about it, helps you come up with stuff. So, and you're looking for something that's fun to say, easy to memorize, and sounds like you. So again, that's $197 value right there. And the cool thing about that too is it comes with a private discussion board. So once you're part of that program, anytime you got a question about anything we're talking about, you can just go in and post a question there. I monitor those boards all the time. You get lifetime access to that program. And then there's the Elevator Pitch Handbook. The printed copy is $30 plus shipping, but you get the full version in PDF form. It includes a lot of sampled examples, templates, worksheets for solopreneurs, lawyers, accountants, salesmen, whatever it is. That's very cool. So I'm putting a value as just a little bit over $1,000 here for everything we're talking about. Though it's way more than that. I mean, I charge $250 for a half hour, and you get over we get 4 hours with me, plus plus all the other bonuses. So if you want to get this advice from me by the hour, it's way more than $1,000. So you can see the advice. So the price is it's originally $500. I mean, that's what I charge people coming in the door. But since you're my most loyal followers and you're incredible action takers and you're committed to growth in your mindset and you get such great value and see the value in investing in information and advice to get results, I'm going to put today's price at $297. So again, incredible value for investment, what you're getting, and for those who take action and get some amazing results. And you already know if you're not happy, get 30-day money-back guarantee. Fill out the worksheets, do the homework, show me that you networked. So here's what I want you to do right now. We're going to get into the Q&A in just a second. So if you got questions, you can start typing them into the chat box. And you were asked a question earlier. You can please put them in again because it's sometimes hard to see everything that's going on. But we're going to go right over to improvandy.com/buy coaching. So you go to buy coaching. That's the button we're going to click on. And there on that page, it's a special landing page for all of you folks here today. Go ahead once you get there, improvandy.com/buy coaching, and then you click on that buy now button. And here's the thing, I mean, I know you're a human being, I'm certain of that, but a credit card processor kind of insists that they're not so sure. So just don't use this security code. There'll be a security code on your screen. So go ahead and type that security code into your thing, and then type it into that box, and then click the continue button. And at this point, you'll know the drill. Just get out your credit card, put the numbers in right there, take action right now. I want to coach you to grow your business, to make better connections, to follow up so you enjoy it and other people enjoy it and you start getting real paid clients. And I want you to get the special deal and bonuses before all the slots are filled up, and I have to put you on the waiting list. So once again, improvandy.com/buy coaching. So we're going to go there right now. We're going to do this over the next 15 minutes or so. We're going to do Q&A. Talking about, again, you're getting all this information, you're getting the coaching with me and all the bonus programs and all the worksheets and my book. You're getting everything you need on how to get better results from your follow-up. Whether you're following up a lot or a little, whether you've been selling for years or just getting started, show you how to do it step by step. So we've got some great questions coming in, so I will start going on to those. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and type them in. We'll be here for about another 15 minutes, and so go ahead and get signed up. So Marie says, how do you use the technique when your business is nationwide? I'm trying to get responses from prospects all over the country. That's what I need to get better at. The vast majority of customers are not local and not at networking events. Okay, so Marie, so the thing I'll turn around, the people at networking events know people nationwide, right? I mean, if you think you're going to a networking event to find people who are across the country, that won't work. But if you do have a solution that works across the country, you might well find people like that at those networking events. And that's a lot of what we talk about in the advanced training. That you network locally because that's how you trust people. And what you're looking for is to meet with and get to know somebody who knows somebody who's across the country that they can introduce you to, right? That's the real value there. So I don't think it's ruled out. And again, another thing we go into in the advanced training is how to follow up about people. If you're trying to get response to people and they're not responding, you're not following up enough about them. And we can, we brainstorm all sorts of ways to make it more about them. So that's exactly what we work on. And my business, Marie, my business is nationwide. I mean, I do a lot of local networking, but that generates business for me across the country and around the world. And my website helps with that too. So the stuff that I'm talking about today, I absolutely do with that kind of stuff, and that's all included in the training. Oksana, I just finished my studies at the Zurich University. I met some powerful personalities who might be helpful in my business future. I'm already connected with them. I'd like to let them know that I'm interested in them helping me. How do I do it? So Oksana, that is a great question. Thank you. I'd like to suggest to you that you can help them too. There may be things that you know and people that you know that could be helpful to them. And so the recommendation, and again, we go through this in the advanced training, the recommendation is reach out to them, tell them you'd like to sit down for a one-on-one, right? The whole one-on-one thing that we talked about is what this is for, right? It's kind of like, some people call it kind of an informational interview a little bit more in your situation, but whatever you want to call it, what you're doing is sitting down and getting to know them. If you go into it that you want them to help you, that's not a great thing. But if you go into it that you're going to help each other, you want to learn a little bit more each other, learn how you can help each other, that's a nicer way of phrasing it, and it's a better mindset for you to get into. And again, the advanced training is a great way to help get into that mindset to make that sort of thing work. And so good work on already being connected with them. That's great. I'll also say that when you do this, when you send, if you join the program, you get that exact wording you send out. When you send that out, some will respond and some won't. Connect with the people who respond. That's how this works. So thanks for a great example of kind of how this works out in a slightly different environment. But those one-on-ones, they're crucial. Like anytime you're getting to know someone, just suggest you get a one-on-one, see how you can help each other. Hillary, can any of these techniques be integrated into LinkedIn? Yeah, I mean that's you're being coached. The coaching program is with me, so yes, absolutely. We can talk about LinkedIn. There are ways of putting your elevator pitch on LinkedIn. There are certain ways to set you up so that you're found in search. Like there's some kind of things people don't usually know about LinkedIn that help make you more findable on LinkedIn. And of course, it's social media, so you need to be active on it in a variety of ways to do that. I think that if you're cold calling on LinkedIn, I get a lot of cold calls on LinkedIn, and I don't find that so valuable or interesting. I will say though that I have responded. I have purchased things from cold calls. People emailed me on LinkedIn. And the reason that I didn't purchase on the spot. I started a relationship that ended up generating purchases from me. And the reason that worked is that the initial email was about me. They were inviting me to join their business forum, or they were inviting me to give a talk on one of their webinar series, or that they were reaching out to me for me to do something that was good for me. And then as a result of getting into that, they ended up convincing me that their thing had value for this other thing that I was doing, and that's fine. So I think the thing to carry over into LinkedIn is what people have been talking about. It needs to be about them. You want the follow-up to be about them. And yes, you can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that on Facebook. You can do that on Twitter. I mean, this works everywhere. The Oksana tells me the age she's going to be in August, and that's fine. I mean, there's no right or wrong time. Like reach out to people and make it happen. So so that's well. So Oksana, so the question, and again with the advanced training, we go into kind of specifics of how the question would go. But you can phrase it. How can we help each other? I'd like to sit down and see how we can help each other. Sit down and learn more about each other so we can see how we can help each other. So it's not. So it really is a two-way street, right? I mean, a lot of people, your question sounds like the kind that they're so powerful and I don't have much to offer, but you do have stuff to offer. You could offer feedback, and again, based on your age, you have feedback that they're not getting from other people who are in the university. So they might be very interested in your perspective on things. You might be able to help them with a lot of that. So that's really what it is. So I see folks signing up. Congratulations for those of you who are getting started. It's really it's a fun way to do business. It's a really cool way to kind of get this stuff done. And so so I got a great question from Luke. Let me just read it. So he said, you've shown us some of the big wins. What are kind of the pitfalls to avoid? How can you be sure you're doing the right kind of networking? And I would say that I find that networking, any networking you're doing is the right networking. Any people that you're meeting are the right people. The key is, again, in the stuff that we've talked about today and in the advanced training that we talk about, it's about turning the events into good events, right? Anytime you're meeting with people, you can start conversations. You may not make great connections at every event you go to, but over time you want to be making connections. And it's better to go to an event than not go to an event, right? If you don't go to the event, nothing can happen. And if you go to the event, and again, you use these techniques, I've had a lot of people, a lot of clients over the years have, we get on the phone, we work out their stuff, they go to an event, we get back on the phone, and they say, that event was worthless. And I'm like, all right, well, but tell me about it. Like, who did you talk to? What did you say? What did they say? And when we work through what actually happened at the event, they get off the phone really excited because there were 3 or 4 opportunities there that they hadn't seen as opportunities, right? And that's part of the thing too, that we're not trained how to see opportunities, but when you're networking, there are opportunities everywhere, and you want to use the right kind of conversational techniques to make that happen. So that's that's kind of what we talk about. We talk about that. And so another good question, how do you know when your elevator pitch is right? Well, you know your elevator pitch is right when you're getting the right kind of responses to it, right? I mean, the example I like to share is that I'm trained as an improvisational actor, and I used to kind of lead, my elevator pitch used to be, Andy, what do you do? Well, I use improvisational acting techniques to help. That's as far as I ever got, because once people hear improvisational, all they want to talk about is Drew Carey. Oh, have you seen Whose Lines Is It Anyway? I love Drew Carey. And yeah, I mean, I love Drew Carey too. I think he's an incredible comedic talent. It doesn't have anything to do with helping people with their business networking. And so I've stopped saying the word improvisation anywhere in my marketing. It's in the name of my company, but most people think that's improve. So anywhere it goes, so again, you want to say something when you're getting the right response back. That's when you know you've got the right thing, right? That's really what you're looking for. And again, when I coach people, I work out an elevator pitch and then I send them off to networking events to use it, because my instincts are pretty good now, but you don't really know what you've got until you've started using it. Kathy asks, with high-ranking people, do you change your approach? No. No, you don't. And the cool thing about high-ranking people, the story I like to talk about is that I got thrown out. One of the only times I've ever gotten thrown out of a cold call was at a building over in Watertown, Massachusetts, where the gatekeeper just tossed me out. And a little bit later that week, I was at a Cambridge Chamber networking event where the guy who owned the building was there. And so I met him and introduced myself, and he actually wanted window cleaning for his building. And so the next day I walked back into that same building, and the gatekeeper, was getting ready to throw me out again. I said, John's expecting me. And you should have seen her face. She's like, what? I'm like, I have 10 o'clock with John. Could you please tell him that I'm here? And so I said, could you please tell John that I'm here? And so she called John. John's like, yeah, send him back. And so she went scurrying off to get me coffee, right? I mean, it's a very, so high-ranking people, that's who you want to be talking to. And the cool thing is that when you network, the high-ranking people are networking, right? I mean, I'm getting great deals with the vans I buy for my business now because I met the guy who owns the local Chevrolet dealership through my network. And I'm not working with, I mean, he doesn't actually sell the cars. He's got people working for him who sell the cars, but he runs the organization. They know who I am. It creates the kind of thing. So high-ranking people don't think about that. You just run this process. You'll meet high-ranking people, and you know what? When someone the high-ranking person trusts introduces them to you, you're a high-ranking person too. So that's really, don't psych. That's another one of those imaginary things. Don't psych yourself out about that. You can reach out to people the same way you always do. And the cool thing, going back to that LinkedIn question, is, again, this is the kind of stuff we talk about when you sign up for the advanced training. The cool thing is if you're looking at a high-ranking person, the cool thing about LinkedIn now is you can do an advanced search. And I teach you exactly how to do that in the advanced training. You can do an advanced search to see who in your network knows that person. So you don't need to cold call them anymore. You can reach out to your network and see who can introduce you. And when you get introduced, then again, you become a high-ranking person. So Oksana's got another question. Great. Is it possible to know about your professional road, education, work situations? Is it possible to get to know about your professional road, education, workstation? Oh, you're talking about the path that I took, Oksana? If you tell me that, I might be able to. Yes, it is possible to talk about. Let me work through some of the other questions that are coming in, but I'm happy to share a little bit about that as well. Carol said, after doing a show, I always get people who want to book me, but there are too many people around at that time. What do I say to them at that time? So if you can pull out a calendar, so depending on what your process is, Carol, and again, this is the kind of thing I love working with people on, and again, that's what the advanced training is for. They kind of set up, design something for this. But the kind of the first questions I would ask you is, okay, well, what does booking you look like? I mean, do you need to send them a proposal or something? Do you need to sit down and talk to them? If you need to sit down and talk to them, the best thing to do is just pull out your calendars right there, set up a time to talk to them, and move on from there. If not, again, you can learn a little bit about what they want and then promise to follow up with them. But anything you can schedule in the moment is good, right? And again, sometimes at a show, I assume you're talking trade show or something. If you're at a show, sometimes you can book kind of rooms later on. Say, yeah, I'll be in this room. Stop by later on. We can talk it through. You can kind of set something like that up too. So yes, there is something like that. And Carol, the other reason people have helpers is to do that kind of stuff, right? If you end up getting swamped at these shows, hire someone. I actually know a great guy who offers trade show talent. So if you're looking to hire someone to kind of help with that, you can have people who kind of help take down the leads. So that hopefully that answered your question. So that's so good. Yeah. Good. So couple other questions coming in. So somebody talk a little bit more about the follow-up versus the cold call. And so the mistake a lot of people make in networking, and again, what this process really helps with, is that people are running around at networking events collecting business cards. And I did this for years. I collected as many business cards as I could, and then I got back to my desk, and I sat down, and I started calling these people. And the people have never heard of me, right? I mean, if you're just like handing out business cards, it's no better than a cold call. And in fact, it's worse than a cold call because you expect them to know you. I mean, you have their business card, but there's no connection. And so again, what we do is we turn that around. We flip that around so that you connect with someone so that they want to hear from you. And Carol, that's what's going on with you. You've connected with them. They want to hear from you. That's good. I mean, that's good. And you following up with that will be easier than if you're just doing it straight up. Oh, it's a good question. Yeah, thanks for remembering that story. How do you follow up with that guy who got the job coaching that women's team, right? So the story I told at the very beginning, where I followed up with this person, and then he ended up introducing me to someone who became a client. I actually sent him my book. I sent him a copy of my book just out of the blue. I published the book, and he's somebody I've known for a while. So I just sent him a book with a little inscription in it saying, thank you for all the great work you do with entrepreneurs. I'm really, really always excited to see what you're doing. And here's a book. Here's a book. And so she sent me a very nice handwritten thank you card back. Let's talk. And so we did get on the phone a couple of times. We were trying to set up a program for her organization. It just kind of fell through. Like it wasn't really exactly right for the kind of work that I like doing. It seemed like a good idea, but it just wasn't quite right. But then 3 or 4 months later, I got a call from someone that got someone had talked to this guy about needing an elevator pitch coach, and he sent her to me. And again, there was nobody in the running. I just signed it straight up. So that was the story behind that. And again, it's just I sent I didn't send her a book saying, hey, I'd like to speak for you. I sent her a book saying, hey, I've been following you for a long time. I really like the work you're doing. I look forward to meeting you soon. And that really got a great response. So do you suggest showing pricing on your website, or is that what you need a proposal instead of doing that? So that depends. I mean, if you're selling commoditized stuff, if you're selling commoditized stuff, then you do kind of need to show the pricing. But for those of you who sell services and that kind of stuff, so I don't generally like to show pricing, because if someone calls me up and asks about the pricing, that's a very strong buying signal. And the thing about my pricing is that it kind of depends on what they want. Right? I mean, I have people, and again, this is why that proposal that proposal template is so valuable in the advanced training, that there's you need a proposal, because you have to kind of set up what you're going to be doing for them. And I often don't know what I'm going to charge them until I get through the proposal. I write the proposal, write down what we're going to be doing. Again, it's like a 3 or 4 page proposal template. You fill out the stuff, and then I have a sense of what I want to charge them. And if they're, if they go to your website and you're just looking at the price, it's hard to engage them on that. So again, from a building trust, and from a follow-up, someone calls you and says, what's the price? Now you can actually start talking to them. And again, people come up to me, hey, what would it cost me to present to my team? All right, well, where are you located? How big is the team? How long do you want me to present for? What kind of topic are we going to be doing? Right? I mean, there's all those questions kind of come to mind offhand. And so that's and again, that's the kind of stuff that I love working on, and that's why I'm offering this advanced training, because that's the kind of stuff we could definitely work on. Kimberly, yes, I will send you. I'm surprised you don't have a copy of my book, but you can certainly have one. Carla, I'm an advocate for chiropractic, massage, and physical therapy, 3 businesses. For a network, I like to represent one business, but I can usually change direction when I'm one-on-one. What do you suggest for tips and networking presentation, or rather 1-minute commercial elevator pitch? Well, I mean, Carla, I think you've already done a great job. I forget how you phrased it exactly earlier. You can go back and look, but I'm a chiropractic advocate or something. So you want to pick one, and I think that chiropractic is different enough, right? Massage and physical therapy, there's kind of a lot of that. It doesn't sound so novel, but the chiropractic piece to me sounds a little novel. It's just there are fewer people kind of doing that. I know there are a lot of people practicing chiropractors, but that sounds a little more novel from a networking thing. And so I would recommend representing the chiropractic. And yes, I mean, once you're talking to someone one-on-one, that's when you can talk about the larger range of things that you do. And again, Carla, thanks for bringing that up. The mistake people make is that the mistake people make is that they try to push everything into their elevator pitch, but you just want one thing. I help, I'm an advocate for chiropractic kind of stuff. And that gets you into the conversation, that gets you to the one-on-one, and then when you're in the one-on-one, there you go. Oksana, yeah, so Kimberly, who requested the book, is actually a longtime client of mine, so I'm happy to give her a book. If you want the book, I suggest the advanced training that you get a book as part of that, or you can order the book online. So yes, happy to send you a book. But again, Kimberly's already an ongoing client of mine, so I'm happy to send her a book. But again, what we're doing today, the advanced training, that's the easiest way to get a copy of the book. Kimberly would like to network with the Chiro Advocate. So if that's okay, Carla, if that's okay with you, I will send a co-introductory email to the two of you. Happy to make that connection. So Carla, just let me know if you're willing to take that introduction. Kathy, can I have 2 copies of your book? Yeah, so Kathy, email me offline and we can work out a deal for the book. I appreciate that, and thank you. So yes, Kathy. So if you just want a book, if you go to elevatorpitchhandbook.com, you can order multiple copies of the book there. There's all sorts of stuff there. If you don't want the training, you just want a couple of copies of the book, go ahead out there and you can elevatorpitchhandbook.com. Carla, great. So I will make an introduction to Kimberly and Carla, and great networking, everyone. That's wonderful. All right, so the questions are slowing down a little bit, so I want to give you, our time, oh boy, I could talk about this forever. So thanks everyone for staying on the call. Let me just give me a second to look back through for, wow, you've been doing so much stuff. It's so good. All right, just give me one more second. I'm just figuring out what I want to do. Is a lot of people would be great to follow up with. All righty, so turns out that I cannot narrow this down to just one person, so I had to narrow it down to 3. So the three people who win the coaching call: David Elliott, Carla, who we've just been talking about, and Carol Tiffany. So if you just shoot me an email, my email's on all the emails you've been getting all week have my email. So just shoot me an email to say you won the coaching call, and I'll be happy to schedule 30 minutes with you to talk through whatever you're working on. So we have I don't really have any more questions coming through. Just a lot of thanks and great feedback. So again, we got a couple more minutes. You want to sign up for the advanced training? That's available now. For those of you interested in the book, I will send a follow-up email. You obviously knew I'd be following up after this, so I'll send you a follow-up email with the information, all the information about the book. And Oksana, actually, there's an online version of the book too that I'll send you. It may be hard to ship it to you, but I do have an online version that you might be able to buy. So be on the lookout for that. So again, the folks that I just mentioned, David Elliott, Carla, and Carol Tiffany, just go ahead and shoot me an email. And for those of you who signed up, thank you. I look forward to working with you. Again, there's still a couple more minutes to sign up. I'll leave it open for a little bit longer. Anyone who still wants to sign up, go ahead. I'd be happy to work with you. And great. So awesome. I appreciate everyone staying to the end. It's been great working with you. Really I appreciate the comments. I hope you got a lot of information. That's it, everyone. Appreciate your time and energy for being here. Thanks for being active and engaging, connecting, and commenting with me. It means a lot. I look forward to connecting with a lot of you as we go. And if I can support you in any way, just feel free to hit me up. Again, you got my email and everything. We'll go from there. Okay, get out there, follow up, grow your business. Thanks for being on the call, everyone. Bye.